President Bola Tinubu on Friday said hunger and poverty have remained the biggest threats to peace in the country. This is as the president also called on governors across Nigeria to remain focused on delivering tangible results that improve the lives of their people, urging them to disregard and cheer critics who merely seek to distract them from the work at hand. Speaking during a two-day visit to Castina, President Tinubu told the governors that the accurate measure of leadership is a positive, visible impact. Your handwork and concrete achievements will answer any criticism. Ignore distractions. Your results will speak for you, he said. Tinubu, in a statement by his spokesman, Bayo Ononuga, was quoted as saying, "Let the people be at the heart of your programs." According to the statement, President Tinubu noted that hunger and poverty remain the biggest threats to peace in the country. The president said that the Bank of Industry will be restituted and properly repositioned to meet farmers' needs and improve farming and agricultural production. The reason why this particular story is actually there in the news is because, yeah, we know about the two-day visits by the president to Katsina State in order to inaugurate the road construction and, speak to the soldiers, the troops that has been deployed to fight the insurgents in the northeast. And, he made statements. This was one of the statements that he actually made mention of because of the whole situation of hardship going on in the country. And I'm sure you've heard, even though you will not want to speak out about it. But I just want to get your thoughts on this, coming from the president at this time. What do you make of this, please?
Well, there's a book in my library, my private library. It was written by a BBC journalist, latest to America. He was talking, there's a quote there that's very inspiring. He said that the book was written in the 1940s to 1950s, and the book is as true as it was then. Very powerful. Alistair Cook was the author of the book. He said, "No group of humans will likely remain noble in the desperation of thirst." So what is he trying to say? Is that there's a nobility in human beings. Like the nobility in human beings, when they are hungry and thirsty, there is a loss of that nobility in them. There is a loss of that dignity in them. There's no Nigerian that is not aware that that hunger and poverty are among our greatest pain points. You don't need someone to tell you that people are hungry and people are poor. If you walk the streets, you see people that are hungry. You go to neighborhoods, people are hungry, people are poor. So the president is saying it is beautiful that the president is coming out to say that Nigerians are hungry and Nigerians are poor. Kudos to him. Like, I feel like appreciating him for that statement. But the reality is, how do you take these people out of poverty and hunger? China today is a global power force. It's one of the largest economies in the world, producing and manufacturing a lot. With over a population of over 1 billion people, they were not as rich. They are not as rich as they are today. They were not always rich. They had a large percentage of their population poor at some point, but they worked so hard to take out a lot of their citizens from poverty to prosperity. United Arab Emirates, 50 years ago, a good percentage of that country was mostly desert. But they worked so hard to transform the country and take a lot of their citizens from poverty to prosperity. You can mention many countries of the world, Singapore, Malaysia, many countries of the world that are working so hard to take India, many countries, a large percentage of their population. You can't completely solve the problem of poverty and hunger, but you can significantly reduce it. So just talking about the problem is not enough. Just saying that Nigerians are hungry and poor is not enough. Nigerians need action, purposeful leadership, action. And taking them out of poverty is not rocket science. The policies of the governments the leadership of the government create employment opportunities, create a conducive environment for businesses to thrive, for Nigerians to live in peace and security. So one of the responsibilities of government is the security of Nigerians. And security is broad, is vast. It is not just physical security alone. We talk about food security. Food security is national security. And if Nigerians are poor, it means we need to revisit our food security policies and see why are they poor. You tackle issues of the farmer herdsmen clashes. You tackle issues of access and acquisition of lands. You tackle issues of ensuring that the farmers get the right fertilizers and the right machinery and the right agricultural input, the funding opportunities and all that. You open up that sector to ensure that someone who knows nobody can have access to what is due him, that the government has put in place. That a farmer in Sokoto who does not have a politician as his friend can have access to fertilizer. That a fisherman in River State can have access to the the tools that he needs to aid his fishing. So, it's not enough to say the problem. It's just like a doctor. Let me just round up with this. Like, let's say I'm sick. Or someone is sick. Let me not use myself as an example.
Okay.
Let's say someone is sick. And you went to the hospital. You're shaking. And then the doctor looked at you and said, Mr. A, you're sick. Mr. A said, yes, I know. Mr. A, but you're sick. He said, yes, I know. By the time you keep telling Mr. A, he might die there. But Mr. A, you're sick. I'm going to treat you now. Mr. A, you're hungry. Yes, I know. Mr. A, you're hungry, but I have food to give you. So just telling Mr. A he's sick, he will become sicker if there's an English like that. The sickness will deteriorate because the more he keeps hearing it, you are poor, you're poor, you're poor. It starts creating a mental picture for him. So just telling people, just saying we are poor. I very much believe that we have the capacity to take Nigerians out of poverty. I very much believe. Okay.
Well, you've made your statement, Mr. George, on that, and we've gotten it. Well, I actually wanted to find out on this part of the insecurity. On the other hand, we'll still get to that. You talked about food security, which is one of the reasons why this was actually brought up. Hunger, poverty, they actually work hand in hand, because when you're poor, you do not have food, you're hungry, and it's a threat to peace. And in that instance, I think what the president has said, it's because of this whole situation of insecurity in the country. It's affected due to the farmer-herder clashes that's actually happened, especially in the northeast, even part of the south. It has affected the peace of the country. Am I making sense in that?
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you a question. Do you think that so far the policy from the president has actually, yielded results to Nigerians? Like you stated about the the doctor scenario, calling out Mr. A over his sick status, saying you're sick and not administering a medication on him. It could deteriorate the situation. Instead, it's better he administer medication than telling him that back to back, because we know the thing of when you hear something all the time and you're not getting results. Someone say when you do something, particular thing over and over again and you're expecting a different result, it's literally entirely difficult. So there should be certain decisions that can be taken, though we could call that a change, that can be taken in order to avert situations like this. I want to ask, what kind of policy do you think that can be imbibed, aside the part of the production of or provision of farmers, fertilizers, empowerment and all of that? What policy do you think should be taken by the president?
The aspect of land for farmers.
Okay, yeah, because he mentioned about the agricultural part, in that.
The many people that are interested in agriculture, I do say it all the time, that agriculture is not a poor man's business. Actually, agriculture requires a lot of capital. the world has left us behind. We are still practicing agriculture of cutlass and hoes and all that. We need to, the other parts of the rest of the world have left us behind for a very long time. Now, many people that are interested in agriculture, they don't have access to farmland. Most families, they have lands that they inherited from their grandparents or their forefathers. They inherit the land and then they use the land for farming. What about those who don't have any land that they inherited from their forefathers? What are they going to use for farming? And so you might say, okay, you can go and buy the land and use it for farming. How many of them have the capital, the money to buy a land? And when you talk about land for farming, it's not just any land, right? There are some crops that will not do well in some particular geography or geographical setting. Some crops won't do well there. So if you're looking at producing granules, for example, you want to go into granite production, you have to look at for a land that will be favorable to the granite production. The geographical setting that will help and aid the production or the farming of granules. You can't do that in some certain areas. So there should be a collaboration with those that are interested in agriculture. We talked about food security, and food security is national security. So it should be a top priority of the government. The government should put all forces, all energy, all their strengths in the aspect in food security, because a lot of Nigerians, they don't even have good nutrition. You know, there is a basic standard of nutrition that everybody should take or should have every day. There's a basic nutritional standard, like you need some nutritional meals. But when a poor man does not even, you're telling him to eat fruits, eat vegetable, eat this, eat that, and he can't afford it. And maybe what he has is gari, cassava. And you tell him, oh, stop eating cassava every day. What alternative have you provided for him or have you given him? So one of the policies the government I don't think we have shortage of policies. I think we even have beautiful policies on paper. What we require is an all government approach, a whole approach in addressing the problems in our agricultural sector. Access to land for farming. Okay. They can even make a policy that states, local government can have some can buy up some lands, right? A local government can go into a project in collaboration with the state government, the federal government. They can have this land, they can buy up lands and then allocate it to those who are interested in farming. The land does not belong to those farmers, belongs to the government, but is more like a state or local farm project. Okay. So at the end of the day, they are being paid for their service, and then revenues that are generated from those farmlands goes to the government, helps in increasing the internally generated revenue of the government, helps in creating employment, helps also in utilizing some of those lands that are just left. They are just there wasting. Okay. Right? If you travel across this country, you see a lot of land that is wasting, even though some people are using it for agriculture, but it's still this subsistent kind of agriculture. Where you have a state or a government investment, government can do it with the private sector so that it can be efficiently run. I'm not saying the government it cannot be efficiently run, but with the private sector, this is called the public-private sector partnership, PPP. Now, if you have a public-private sector partnership in agriculture, the government maybe can provide the land, and then the private investors can invest in terms of the machinery and the equipment and all that, and then there's a win-win situation.
Okay. Well, we've gotten your thoughts on that. I quickly want to make a statement. You mentioned about a geographical area of some products not, necessarily, they will not generate as much as required. And looking back to some part of the country, where the insecurity is actually on the high right now, we can mention about the onion, the vegetables. Onion is part of the vegetable, yeah. The vegetables, the yam, the tomatoes, pepper, beans. Most of them are transported from there down to south where we are, and then we know that some of those crops or those goods might not generate as much as we want when we plant them here. In states like that, that's still trying to get themselves back over the insecurity that's going on. What's the possibility that this policy can actually work in states like that?
Well, with technology and a lot of innovation in agricultural practices, you can actually grow some of these crops outside their natural geographical environment.
And they will actually yield results.
And they will actually yield results,
okay,
but not in all cases.
Okay.
Not in all cases. For example, it's not easy for you to grow apples here. Because the geography, the environment, the climate and all that will not allow the apples to do well. Maybe tomorrow there might be some innovation in the agricultural sector that could help us to start growing apples. But for now, it's actually very difficult. So in a situation where much of this food crops that you talked about is coming from the north, pepper and all that, if you go to the market, you'll discover that the prices of some of these things always fluctuate.
Yes.
There are times that you can't buy onions because it's very expensive. It's very difficult for you to buy onions. You could just see a tiny size of onions and the price is really
fresh pepper,
fresh, all those things. So how can we improve? How can we cause a transformation? How can we create change from these repeated things? One of the ways we can create change is good storage facilities. My first degree, my research was on agricultural sector and human capital development in Nigeria. I used Bayelsa State as a case study. So I traveled through the various clans and communities, local governments in Bayelsa State. I did a field survey and looked at some of the challenges facing and confronting farmers in the state. Now, in the same vein, if you look at the northern states in Nigeria, one of the things I discovered in the course of my research is storage facilities, at least being provided by the government in partnership with these farmers. So if I am a tomatoes farmer in Jos, Plateau State, for example, and I harvested 20 bags of fresh tomatoes, and because I don't want... Tomatoes is a perishable food item. It's a perishable food. And I don't want... You can't keep it in your house. You have to sell it off. But ideally, or you should not be selling everything at the same time. Now, if there are good storage facilities, like I'm happy that some companies now are trying to process, convert some of these things to tomato paste. They have it in tins and all that. But not all the farmers have the capital and machinery to transform some of these tomatoes, fresh tomatoes, to cans and package them. So if you have good storage facilities now, you can help in ensuring that maybe in the next season you still have tomatoes. If you travel to some European countries, they hardly complain about they are having challenge with because they have good storage facilities. At every time you get your fresh tomatoes, you get your fresh pepper. At every time.
Okay.